Hello, good evening. Hope everybody is well. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the August class. And I thought that I kind of did a couple things that were probably a bad idea. One is writing the documentation at the last minute. Alyssa mentioned in the chat that cards 3 and 4 seemed a little confusing. So we'll see how that all goes together. And I'll probably wind up proofreading it. The other thing I totally forgot about is that if you're using dark card bases like these or these, like you probably want an inside piece where people could actually write on. I am doing wonderfully. Thank you, Miss Bell. I hope you are as well. It is actually lovely fall weather in the Midwest this week for some reason in August. Although I did decide, so I had initially done these are the cards we're going to make, but I actually changed out the paper because this looked a little late fall to me. And I thought for this class, the neat thing to do would be to do basically two variants of a similar card. So these two are basically what I would call like a spotlight card where you have like one big focal piece. And then you can have a sentiment here, or this is optional. And this one is just a standard A2, as you might expect. This one has a little Z-fold surprise in the inside. And you can this one is crooked, and that's because I had these pieces not attached when I die cut this. So for the one that I did later, I wound up just taping around the edges and then die cutting this, and it worked a lot better. Anyway, so that's the first card. And then these are the two gatefolds. One of them and just has a nice little belly band and then is completely straightforward. I think the thing that's probably confusing on the instructions is how to cut the base, but basically it's the same dimensions as a top folding A2. You just score it a little bit differently. So you score it 2 3/4 on each side. Just made a little belly band. We are going to be using these butterflies because when I was chatting with one of my friends about the class, she mentioned that she likes nature. She doesn't really do much nature, but likes butterflies. And then this last card, you do an extra score line in the back, and then you have this sort of bridge piece. So like when you set this down, you can see this bridge pops out. So you get a really neat 3D look. And then this one, if you want a place to write the message, you have two options. You can either put something on the inside here to write on, but the one I actually like is if you flip it over and then use pieces that look like this that are just standard, which I didn't do, but we will do because I actually remembered to cut them this time. And those are the ones that we are going to be working on. Hey, Linda, how are you? Welcome, welcome. And then this is another. So there's basically 3 different things you can see on these cards with this butterfly. Is that they come in white, and these are pre-die cut, and I grab them. These are a Stampin' Up thing, but you get whatever the math is, 8 sheets. I think you get 40 total, and these are sort of a paperweight, and you'll see in a second. I grab it. So for tonight, I did a little technique with some distress sprays that I had. And these will have a really nice sort of, like the oxides on these are really oxidey. So they're really going to look a little bit distressed, which I think will be neat because the paper that I switched to has sort of a distressed vibe. But you can do a lot with them. You can, of course, if you have butterfly dyes or any nature thing dye, feel free to do that. The other thing you can do with the belly bands is as opposed to putting an image here, you could actually just stamp a sentiment. And I think we will do that for one. This is a card from my Also Inspired hop. So you can see sort of the other looks you can get with these butterflies because this is just ink smushing. Lennox is here as well. He will say hi, and then we will hopefully get him to not sit on anything I need. We are not being very successful at that. So let me just move a couple things. Excuse me, sir. I know you can't see him, but I promise he's here. Oh, now you can see him. Wouldn't be one of my streams if there wasn't some level of cat interference. Anyway, we will hope that he sort of stays out of frame, and not entirely, but he can hang out. He was pretty good. last week, but we shall see. Anywho, yeah, we're gonna have a little cat, but still have a lot of area to work with. Hey, Delise, how are you? What else should I mention? If you want to cut card kit, info on that is as always in my emails. And if you bought Stampin' Up stuff last month and got coupons, they go poof at the end of the month. So FYI, if you have certificates to use, if you have more than a couple of them, you can always try and use them more than once to see if you use them or not. So anyway, just a few little items of business, but let us get into our first card. So this is going to be our more straightforward spotlight card. And I switched over to this paper because I really liked, this is the country lace paper, but I really liked how this looked with the gray. I thought this like pink and gray and a little bit distressed. I really like that look. So we have that piece. And then we have our spotlight piece, our sentiment strip, and then I threw in a little bit of extra. I'm thinking I might do the blue just to put a little border around this and make it pop a little bit. But let me stamp out my sentiment first. This die and these stamps are from Spotlight on Nature, so that's the collection I'm mostly working with. I did, of course, load this up on my stamp wheel to make life easy because I didn't really want to have a struggle bus of stamping sentiments. I think that'll look pretty good. If it gets a little crooked, we can, of course, always oh, sorry. Thank you for the reminder. If you they're in an email that went out yesterday, but let me, as always, I will throw up the little banner with the little thingy that tells you where you can get it. Here we go. There we go. Feel free to download that. That will get updated with whatever fixes we find in addition to the ones I already know about that need a little bit of correcting. So for this card, this is a standard A2 card base, a 4x5 1/4. And this is 3/4 by 2 3/4. Or you can do a half, whichever you prefer, really. I kind of mess with it a little bit depending on like what sentiment I'm using and how big it is. This one is a hello friend, which isn't particularly large. There we go. Sorry, dear friend. Close to hello friend. I think it's also a might need a little trim up, but that is fine. Thanks for the reminder, Brenda. I totally forgot to throw that up. And if that for some reason doesn't work, let me know. Let me just grab some scissors I just want to even this off a little bit. Yeah, I like that better. And how do we feel? Actually, do we like this better with a mat or not? I'm thinking a little blue will set it up. Yeah, I like it a little bit with the mat, I think. Hello, Delise. How are you? Oh, I'll have to check out your live. I didn't realize you went live today. Okay. Have a good one, Cordelia. I know we are all probably very busy this time of year. At least I always feel that way. Even though I don't have kids who are getting ready for school, I do feel like it's just sort of a busy time. And it's just a time everyone's trying to. Let me try not to glue this on upside down. I guess it wouldn't really matter tremendously, but it just seems like a time everyone's trying to get stuff done. Just because like it's sort of the end of the summer. There we go. I think I will cut the other one on the paper cutter. Just because I don't like sentiments where they wind up being like super crooked. I think that should be about right. Just needs a little more off, I would say. A little more than that. There we go. Have our dear friend. I think in the sketch I actually rounded 2 corners, which you could totally do. And the other thing I think I want to do is stamp a butterfly on here. And let me see what color I want. I didn't really think about it too much. Maybe let's do pink. I think I'll do pink again just to kind of tie in with the other pink. You can definitely do brown as well. That would look fantastic. And hope we do well. And we did. That's cute. I like that. And if you wanted to, you could definitely stamp this in either Memento or a waterproof ink if you wanted to. Oh, hey, Jim. Oh, thanks. Thumbs up if you would like to do so. You could stamp this in Memento or something waterproof if you wanted to go color it. There's not a ton of line work in here. There's some nice line work, but I mean, it's fairly subtle. So if you wanted to go in with some watercolor and sort of jizz that up, you certainly could. So to get this actually into a card, and if you hate pink, you could use the blue side. Just saying. I'm becoming more pro pink over time, I think. I wouldn't say I'm a super huge fan, but I am. I have been like it. I like it as a summer color for sure. And I don't know if the weather continues, I'm going to be like very much into autumn cards. I just noticed my card base was crooked, so I'm just evening it out a little bit. And then I'm just going to get this mostly even. And we are pretty good. I'm also going to grab an inside piece for this since gray is would be really hard to write on. And I'm going to see if I have any ink left on here. I might be able to get a nice watermark. If not, and I did. Oh, that's fun. So I got a really faint watermark, which I like. Because I always like bringing something from the front of the card to the inside. So I will get that in as well. These are not currently on the instructions, but I will fix that later. And it's totally optional. If you are using a white card base, you don't have to. If you're using a colored card base, you don't have to. But I like it. I like to have a piece on the inside. Plus, I think it adds sort of a finished look to the whole thing. As you may have noticed, I'm working with off-white here, the Stampin' Up! Very vanilla as opposed to a true white, because I just feel like with this distressed paper, it looks a little cooler. So I'm liking how this is looking, but I definitely, did I remember to grab adhesive tape? No, hang on one second. Let me grab some foam adhesive. And I really like this focal piece when it's popped up, so I'm just gonna go and do that. Um, I have to remember I actually have some dots I got from my first in-person crop back in April that are staring at me that I'm not using at the moment, but I don't know. I do like these little hex ones though. I guess round is about the same. Like I like smaller ones because it's easier to like get them on quickly. I will just get the release paper off. And let me see. Oh, is it? Thank you, Jim. I will fix that. I probably grabbed the wrong one. I had all of my links up and probably did a copy paste fail. Let us see. Uh I think that should be right, Jim. Let me just copy this. Of course I could be wrong. I think that link should be correct. I may have it wrong in other places. The one on screen is correct. But let me paste it in chat here quick. So that one doesn't work for you, Jim? Well, whenever it goes through. That was the one that I was using, and it seemed to work for me, which is odd. Anyway, if not, I will take a look at it later, but that puzzles me if it doesn't work. But that's okay. Oh, okay. Alrighty, thank you, Danny. I may have the wrong in the description. Anyway, we will take a peek at that. And I will just get my sentiment on. I do really like I'm glad that we did a border. I think this would have not really stood out. Although you could have just stamped directly on this pattern paper because, that would have been pretty easy. So this is sort of our first card complete. Thanks for letting me know, Danny. Sometimes it's hard to tell, like, if it's the link you made, if it works. Oh, or not. Because like your links almost always work for you. So let me disturb my cat and grab our second card, which is similar but different. This one we actually don't need an inside piece for. And I'll put this to the side. So this is standard A2. And when I tape this, I just tape the edges so that I can die cut this to get the aperture. And you could do this with any shape you want. I've been really liking this particular like edged circle. So what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of tape. Feel free to use whatever low-tack tape you want. And I'm going to try and line this up, although for me, that's always sort of best effort kind of thing. And let me just die cut this quickly, and I will be right back. And I'm going to die cut through both layers. That worked fine on my die machine, but if it doesn't work on yours, what you can do is die cut one layer, and it'll make an indentation, so you can just take the first piece out and then finish cutting. One moment. And we shall see how we did. Figured we would do this. Oh, we got it. Worked fine. And the nice thing about the low-tack tape is you won't wreck your paper. And then you get this really cool little etched edge. But these pieces are not together. So the first thing I'm going to do is glue them together. Although obviously you don't have to. Like if you like this gray look, if you want to just keep it with the gray, you could do that too. Especially if you're using like a die cut on this and want it to stand out. I kind of like the reassembling the paper, but you have to be, depending on the paper, you may have to be a little careful to try and actually get it lined up, which is, probably one of those. That might be more of a me thing, but I always find it a little tricky at times. Oh, this is part of Spotlight on Nature. Basically, the dies that come with that stamp set are kind of interesting because they're two sets of circle dies that have two circles in the same size. So like you usually get a piece that's more embossed like this, and then the other similar size circle is has sort of a pierced pattern. I'll grab the one that went with this while we sort of let this glue together quick. I'll show you what the other one looks like on this. I don't mangle myself trying to get it off the board. So these circles are the same size basically. So one is this pattern and the other one does this cute little dot. So it's kind of neat if you want something that's a little more embellished than just a straight circle. And while I have this, actually, I think we're going to use one of our butterflies. So I don't think we need to worry about stamping this. So I'll just get this together. This is 5 1/4 by 8 1/2, or half a sheet of paper. Well, a little less than half a sheet of paper. It is. I mean, I especially like shapes with a little extra detail because like you're going to use them. Like if it's I don't know, a friend of mine commissioned some cards that are like winter themed with like sweaters and hats and stuff, and it's like, well, you don't know when you're going to use a hat die, but you know that you're going to use a circle or whoop, something fell on the floor. Oh, my ink. Luckily it was closed. That would have been an unpleasant moment. Anywho, so then this is scored at 4 inches and then 6 1/4. Or if you're more in that mode, I would say this is 2 1/2, 2 1/2. Am I doing the math right? Yeah, so this is slightly longer than this. But the other thing, but this is might be 2 1/4. Anyway, that then gives you more space to glue. So what I tend to do with these, there's two ways you can do this. Because this is sort of a subtler pattern, I'm going to see if I can figure out how to line it up. Because I know basically I have to line up like this little eyelet. So I'm just going to put glue on about half of the half of this that is not exposed. Then I'm going to line up my die cut and then push it down. And then I'm going to lift up my front of my card just to make sure if I get glue anywhere weird, it is not going to cause me issues. And there we go. So let me grab one of my distressed butterflies. Is that a thing? I actually like the ones that are in flight a little bit more. I think like I'll do that. And the neat thing about these is they were like paperweight. So whether you use these or use dyes you already have, like when I sprayed these, like these dried in like under an hour, which was fantastic. Mostly because I forgot about doing it last night, but we all have our moments. The other thing you can do is if you leave the tips of the wings up, it'll give you a little more of a dimensional element. Then what I'll do is I'll just smush it down a little bit to get any excess glue off, as I tend to do. And there is that. And just for giggles, let's do the sentiment the other way this time, just to see how it looks if we don't mat it. I'll just grab that. It is. So the neat thing about this fun fold, this particular version is I saw it done first by Sue Campfield, but other people may have done it. But the neat thing is, like, the times I've seen this card done before, let me just finish stamping. Ooh, I overstamped. Well, that's why we have two sides to things. If I can figure out where I put here's my pokey tool. Of course, it's under the cat. Anyway, the neat thing about this is you can do it with 8.5 by 11 paper. The other way that I've seen this done is if you get a 12 by 12 and cut it at 5.5 and then, 5.25 and then score it at 4 inches and 4 inches and then whatever you want your remainder to be, which is also a neat look. And then basically you just cut a, whatever that turns into. 5 inches by 3 3/4 piece to write on. But I like this variant because, I feel like sometimes I don't want to cut into my 12 by 12, especially if it's something I'm saving for a special occasion. Let me just clean off the edge of my stamp here in case there's a little extra ink. Because I think that's what happened. Sometimes when I ink up these stamps, I'm a little overly aggressive. Oops. There we go. That worked out. We'll just pull this guy up. And put some glue over our oopsie. And this one will be pretty much done. And actually, it stands out pretty well. I'm not sure how it's standing out on camera because camera is weird, but in real life, you definitely get some good differentiation between the cream and the pink. But I like this because, if you're not looking at it too closely, it looks like the card's just going to open, but then you open it and there's an aperture, and you're like, "What?" I don't know. I did a similar card at my shoebox swaps. There was a company doing the paper cutout at Appleton, Wisconsin. Did a similar version of this, only birthday themed. But they did it the traditional way where you just, get your paper to be the right amount of wide. Yeah, I mean, I like this one. I feel like it's actually pretty versatile. I feel like this would be fun with to do like a Halloween version of this, where like this looks normal, but then you open it up and you have like really spooky things inside or something. Anyway, let me put this to the side. And I don't know where my first card went, but that's all right. Unless I put it over here. I did not. Oh, well. Oh, there it is. I put it on. I put it where all my finished cards go. So these are the two versions. You have sort of the straightforward and the more interesting fun fold. I like the fun fold a lot. Plus, it's easy. I mean, it doesn't require specialized stuff, which I think is nice. But let us move on to our gatefoldiness. And I might have to move my cat to figure out. Oh, I have the pieces are over here. So this one is a very straightforward gatefold. I did cut a focal piece because I think I'm going to do a sentiment on here. And then just put that on the belly band and then leave the inside for something else. In terms of dimensions, this piece is whatever size you want. It's just going to be the front piece on your belly band. I cut a belly band that's 1 inches by 11 inches, which you're going to say that's not going to fit, and you're right, but that's why we have a focal piece to glue it together so it looks nice and clean. And then we have these pieces, which are 4 inches by 2.5. And then your base is half a sheet of cardstock scored at 2 3/4 and 2 3/4 on each side, or whatever that measurement is. If you're one of those fancy people who has the fancy, what am I thinking of? The big scoring boards. I feel like I should get one. Excuse me, sir. Let me just keep the cat off screen slightly. For this one, I don't think I'm going to do anything too fancy on the inside, so I'm just going to put in this piece to start with, because I think we're going to focus mostly on the focal piece that's going to be on the belly band. Oh, let me see what I'm missing. Oh, hello, Creativity Playground. How are you? You're one of Lola's friends, I think. Wow, congrats. That is an excellent accomplishment. I'm looking forward to smashing some of my fall pattern paper. Although, because I was very naughty and bought more fall pattern paper from Michael's that was on sale. But congrats. 15 cards in a day is excellent. I think the only time I managed to see, Lala's done 15 cards that I believe are unique. I have only ever done more than about 5 if I'm doing like a mass make, like a sheet load. There we go. So we have this piece in. And as before, if you prefer the blue jean side, feel free to use that. Or whatever you are using. These are, as always, I like to do sketches that are pretty generic so that you could use them for whatever you want. I mean, you could use these quite easily for Christmas or fall or whatever you happen to be crafting with right at the moment. Let's just get this piece down. I, as always, love my double-sided tape. Just it doesn't necessarily, with a pattern like this, it doesn't matter a ton. Like, this is actually how it should be, but if I put it on backwards, you're not really going to notice because it's pretty subtle. Which is one reason it's really easy to work with. I like this paper particularly because it's so, like, with the lace detail. I'll bring it closer. Like, it adds a little visual texture, but it's not like so much visual texture that it pulls focus. I've seen a lot of people make cards with it that I really liked because of that sort of lack of pulling focus. So just to mix this up, for these, I actually wound up cutting a deckled circle as the base layer. And the reason I do that for these pieces for gatefolds is that I want something that's going to be fairly sturdy, because the belly band itself isn't super sturdy. But the neat thing with, if you do this with the deckled circle and then the other one on top of it, is you just get a little detail, which I like. I think that's kind of fun. So I'm going to glue these together. There we go. My glue didn't want to work, but I will glue these together now. And then I think this one I will stamp a sentiment on, just to mix things up a little bit. And it says, "Hello, friend," which is upside down, maybe. Yeah, this will be kind of like this. I'm thinking I might grab my gold ink and do a little something. I think that's not the color I want. Here we go. I'm gonna use Morning Mist, I think, because there's a lot of gray on this card. And I guess with this whole set, I was really just inspired by like gray and pink as an idea. So if you don't like gray and pink, there are lots of other colors we could use. So since this is a circle, I'm just trying to get it centered, and I'm not going to worry too much about. Oh, that came out nicely. I'm not super concerned about how it lays out, but my thought was, in addition to that, I would use this cute little dragonfly and do a little overstamping, because hello. Try to find out. Oh, my mom had some struggles with that, Brenda. I hope you find an answer. My mom didn't like it because they do the whole like test you for 9 million allergens thing, which can be a little bit hard. So I'm just gonna stamp this down here. The gold is really subtle. You can build up this delicata ink you can build up, but I like that this is kind of a subtle something. You could do one on top too, if you were one of those people who likes things that are very balanced. But the last thing we have to do is kind of figure out where we want our belly band. So I'm just going to put this in the middle, and then I'm going to lightly fold it over, and then lightly fold it over. And depending on how much space you have here, that's going to determine how tight your belly band is. Because this folds flat, I think a relatively tight one will be just fine. Because would prefer that it not fall off, but falling off is a little bit preferred to not falling off and then becoming kind of tricky for whoever gets it. So I'm just going to put a little glue here and then figure out where I want my hello friend, probably in the middle. The nice thing is with the circle, this get is, I would say, pretty easy to kind of eyeball because, you can look for the top of the curve. I'm just going to hold this down for a minute. I want to be kind of careful to not glue it to my card. So generally, I will hold it down for long enough for the glue to grab and then take it off so that it can kind of glue down. And if you have a block, you can also use it as a thingy holder downer. A very fancy paperweight. Well, not very fancy paperweight, I guess. But and because we sort of just rolled the paper and didn't put a hard crease in it, it's gonna, you see, we get this nice sort of curve here. So we will get this guy back on and we should be good to go. Yep, and it fits quite nicely. So there we are with our third card done. Oh, yes. I haven't. It's interesting. I thought I was allergic to cats, which I'm sure is hilarious to all of you now. But my mother is very allergic to cats, but I was not as allergic as I thought I was. So this is our last one, and I think we will do some fun stuff. I decided to be tricky and mix it up, and so on this side it's very tone on tone if that's your thing, but we're not going to use this side. We're going to use this fun gold splatter book page. And this card is really inspired by, I'll have to see if I can find it and then I'll post a picture in Danny's group, but this was inspired by a card I made at my crop that like used book pages and distressing, and it's from a artist who's local to Wisconsin called Linda Thrall, I think. And it was really cool. I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm not really a mixed media person compared to some. And I'm just doing the same thing we just did for the belly band, thus I'm not really talking about it too much. And then this one The belly band, I think I will use one of the butterflies that we did in our distress. And this is kind of the fun part of this card. So this is just a standard gatefold, right? Have a sheet of paper, 2 3/4, 2 3/4. But then there's also a score line at here in the back at 5.5. So that's how we wind up getting sort of this gatefold that then we can pull it back and put this bridge piece in. But before I do that, I'm going to flip this over and figure out where I put my paper. But I cut 2 pieces that are the same as the pattern paper. So these are just 2.5 by 4. I'm going to put these on the back because this card really has nowhere to write things. And I would like to give people a place to write a message. And I will amend the instructions to talk about doing this because I had thought about it when I was writing and then completely spaced. And I think some of that is also like, I don't know. I know people who would definitely just do this on their own, and I know people who wouldn't want to follow the instructions. So I think it's all, I always try and like put stuff like this in and just, to give people options. And on a lot of my fun folds, I'll tend to use the back to put a place to write on. Because a lot of times, like for a box card like this, like your front's pretty busy and you're not going to really have a spot to write anything. Oh, do you? That's so cool. Sort of like a like an artist journal, like an art journal kind of thing. Yeah, I have that same problem. Like, I think because I started as a watercolorist and like an acrylic artist, like I like paintings to be paintings and I like cards to be cards, which is like, I don't know, it's totally counter to mixed media. So I don't know. It's sort of one of those like it's a hang up, but only in my head kind of a thing. Generally with anything that's written, I'll try and figure out what direction is up just because in my mind, it makes more sense if your book pages are like right way up. I don't know if that's really a thing for anybody other than me. But this will also kind of do the work of giving us some bling to kind of go against this cream, which I think is gonna. And with most of these cards, obviously you could bling them up as much as you want, and I generally leave mine fairly simple, especially for these classes. But like, I'm not. I'm very much like an enamel dot person, but like I'm not actually a do a ton of bling kind of a person. And this is right way up. I didn't look at this paper in enough detail to know if like these are actually sentences. Anyway, so this is just like the card we did, but the magic is this is 6 inches and then scored at a 1/4 inch on each side, and this is going to be our bridge piece. So I'm just going to fold my glue tabs in. You could burnish these if you wanted to. I did not today, but if you really want them to lay flat, it will help. And depending on how big the thing is you want to put on your sort of bridge piece, you may want to put it lower if you have a really big piece of ephemera that you're sticking on there versus it. I'm going to kind of do it in the middle because none of my butterflies are like super big. And I'm just going to use the edge of the card as sort of a way to make sure this is held down correctly. And then I am going to do the same thing on the other side. It looks like I cut this a little bit long, which isn't going to be a big deal for us because we're going to put a belly band on this anyway. But just FYI, like, as you can see, this is a little bit on the long side. If you didn't like that, you could certainly peel this up and cut it a little differently. When it's displayed, it doesn't matter. It just means that when we put our belly band on, we'll want to be a little careful. Actually, I think I will fix this. So I'm just going to take my bone folder and go under there. And I'm just going to pull this a little bit more by eye, and that should get us inside of the score line, which it does. So that, I think, will be good. See, we just made our glue tab longer. So let me add some more wet glue. I let this sit a while, so it did rip up the paper a little bit, but well, I don't know what that is. We got a little something. Huh. We have a random piece of Post-it tape, which is one of my favorite things, but anyway. So this is kind of how it goes together. I will let this dry a little bit, and we can work on this piece. I'm thinking I'm going to mount some butterflies here. I think I'll do them in the white just so they contrast a little bit, sort of like how we did it on the original card or on the mock-up. And that'll bring sort of this white on the inside. Of course, if you had a die, you could just die cut them. So I think I will use a butterfly on here, but I think I will do it in brown this time. Let me see if I missed any. Hey, Shanna, how are you? No worries. I know that this is during the week is always kind of a strange time, I think. I'm just going to put my butterfly. I will show you one thing on this particular stamp quick. There we go. Oh, and you can see how much more, it's a lot easier to see the detail in the darker ink. But this angle here is kind of flat. So if you like the idea of the butterfly looking a little bit like they're sitting on something, that is a good option. Now we probably have a little bit of ink left over on here. So I'm just going to go on the back and see if we can't get a little bit of a ghost image, just like that. You can usually, for most dye inks, you can usually get like a third iteration if you really wanted to. That'll be super light. So these are the same ink color. So you can usually get multiple colors out of a single dye ink if you want to. You can also buy multiple dye ink colors just so that, sometimes you may or may not want to deal with like trying to get a specific color based on, stamping off and all that. I know, like, definitely didn't do that until I was playing with inks a little bit more. It came quite late for me. So let's complete the belly band, and then we will get some pieces of ephemera. We're going to do it just the same as before. This belly band is probably going to be, you can see, this belly band is going to be a little looser just because we have that extra layer of cardstock. So just like before, I am just going to put a little glue down, put a little glue down. I'm not putting it all the way to the edge just because I don't want to glue my belly band. And then I'm going to get our like focal piece where I want it. And then just hold this for about 10 seconds and it should grab, because both sides of all this cardstock is like not coated in any way other than the pattern paper. So it will, the glue will absolve. No, the glue will absorb very quickly. And then we just will let this dry while we mount a few butterflies. I think I'm gonna work with, I think I'll just do one really big white butterfly. I think that would look really cool. Of course, you can do more. You can also put in multiple of these spanner pieces. I'm just going to put one big butterfly here, I think, because I think that'll be kind of striking, but it is up to you. I feel like butterflies are sort of like the least scary of the bugs. So I don't know a lot of people who aren't at least somewhat happy with a butterfly. So this time I'm just going to put glue on the body, and then we can just sort of put this wherever we want. But if we leave the antenna off, it'll probably look a bit more lifelike. And then this should again, just grip really quickly. I'm just going to just tap this down, and that will leave these wings free, which I think will be a really neat look. So when this pushes forward, it really looks like the butterfly is in flight. So, and I like that. So I will just leave this open to dry, and we can do a roundup of our cards. Here's our. I really like how this particular butterfly is stamped out, because you can really see all the line work in it. But if you did this in black, in a like a water safe something, um, then you could just watercolor it if you wanted to, which is awesome. Oh, cool. That's interesting. Sorry. StreamYard was distracting me. It showed me a logo, and I was like, I don't know what that logo is. But anyway, let me just do a quick recap of these. I really like this fluted edge on this die. Anyway, that is neither here nor there. So we had the card we just looked at. We had the more straightforward version of the same card. Here, now that this is dry, you can really see how, like, I really like this Delicata gold ink, because, like, it's the only gold ink that actually looks like gold when it dries, which I like. Anyway, not sponsored by Delicata or anything. I just really like it. And then when you take it off, you have your standard gatefold. And then you could just put this back on, and the whole thing will go into your. These are all A2 cards, so they all will go into standard envelopes for mailing, even this one. The neat thing about this too is, because you're not really adding much paper, like, you're not adding weight to this card, so you don't need to worry about the whole, like, oh goodness, the postal system. Um, Same butterfly stamp in pink with the pink paper, and then this is same paper backside for set this off a little bit. And this one we did the overstamping, we did the stamping off with the excess ink to just give us a little butterfly thingy. Yeah, and thank you, Alyssa, for mentioning that some of the instructions were confusing, because I will go back and I will update those. Here we have the same butterfly die cut, the same butterfly. I think they're actually called, like, paper accents or something. This one is sprayed with distressed oxide spray. This, if you're curious, is gathered twigs and rusty hinge. The body's more rusty hinge, but it really gives a nice sort of aged look, which I like with this sort of lace paper. This is our Windows Z Fold. Great card. I want to try these for the my sale at Christmas, because I think people would like them. Because, like, I did those floating diamond cards last year, and they just sold out in like 4 seconds. So spoiler, if you want to, like, a fourth tutorial on the floating diamond card, that's probably coming. And I showed you this one already. So those were our 4 cards. And we have a cat in our light. I'll just show you how this one goes back together just like the other gatefold. So it tends to poof out because of the extra score line, but it still would go into an envelope, no problem. So these are our 4 cards. Thank you for checking it out. If you have problems viewing the PDF, do let me know. I know that some folks were having troubles with it. I will go back in and do a little bit of editing. And Lennox says hello. He hopes that you all are having a fantastically crafty Tuesday. And I think that is it for tonight. Any questions, feel free to reach out by email as always, or feel free to hit me up in any other live if you are interested in any of the things. Thanks much, and have a fantastic rest of your day.